it's that time of the year again. It's the Tundra Cast NHL mock draft. Today we have Nick and Ryan.
What's up?
I'm surprised you remember my name. It's been a while.
I know it's been a while. I think it's been since like the Hot Takes podcast or something like that. But yeah, we are back. The draft is 3 days away as of this recording. Um, I can't wait. It's going to be fun. A lot of high end talent is going to be available. So this year we're going to do something different. Last year, I think it was you two and Rossi who went through the every single pick.
Yeah, it took forever.
Yeah, it took like
Yeah.
2 hours, and I was supposed to be on there, so that would have been like 3 hours or something like that. But yeah, we're gonna do something different. So each of us has a pick assigned to us,
Or
and
a team,
or
like
a
a
team.
series, a group of teams. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna act as those GMs and pick the players that we think best fit that team. That's pretty much it. First pick is the Chicago Blackhawks. That belongs to Nick. Let's just get started.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of our fans back at Chicago Arena. I don't remember their name for their great support over the season. We're proud to select the first pick from the Regina Pats, Connor Bedard. I mean, what is there to say at this point about him? It's been hyped up as like the next McDavid, next Crosby for the last like seems like decade at this point. He's just been talked about over and over again. But he's
Yeah,
the next all. He's the next superstar. I mean, gonna be unreal. I'm still a little bit bitter that Chicago ended up getting him, but I mean, it is what it is. He's gonna do great, and I think there's no question who will be the guy that Chicago takes. Pretty easy to start with, I guess. Although I
yeah,
think we were talking about it earlier. You said that Fantilli going to
yeah.
Chicago. I think you predicted that like here,
It would be funny,
just because he
and
plays for the Steel.
I that it would be really funny if that were to happen. I doubt it though. There's no way.
She looked all over Bonk with the first pick.
I really
Yeah,
want to overblock.
we based our draft board based on whose names are the best. So we're picking
Yeah,
Oliver Bonk
exactly,
over.
exactly. That's why
We're just
Colby
trying to
Barlow,
grow the game,
Col
have
Col
some fun names
yeah,
on this team, you know.
Colby Barlow is definitely the number one player on the board. Um, so
Alphabetically.
so on behalf of Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim Ducks organization, I was talking to Shay yesterday, and I told him that for just for it to be fun, um, there was gonna be a bit of a mix-up early on in the draft, and
Oh,
I
this
remember
started.
Shay explicitly said when he was trying to guess what the switch up was, he was saying like, there's no way you switch something up at two, right?
Oh God.
But before you get on my case, right? I just want to preface this with, if I was the GM of the Ducks, I would take Fantilli number two. I think 9 out of 10 times, if we do a simulation of this draft, Fantilli will go number two. Okay, but but John Hoven did report like around a week ago that the Ducks were seriously considering from Herebro, I can't say it, Orebro HK of the Swedish Hockey League,
Horribro.
Leo Carlson. I don't know how to say the name, but you got to keep in mind Verbeek's only been the general manager for a year, right? But a lot of the scouting team that he has over there is still a carryover from the last regime, right? But we can see in the draft that he had last year when he took Nathan Gaucher and Ben King as his first two forwards that he's drafted in his tenure. What do both of those guys have in common? They're both power forwards, both 6'3", 190, 195 pounds, right? The year before that, right? Kind of like the Ducks drafting philosophy when it comes to forwards, right? We thought Simone Edvidson would go number three. We thought Kent Johnson might go number three. They kind of went off the board, and they didn't take the guy that most people were expecting, right? They took a skilled McTavish isn't 6'3", but he plays like a very skilled kind of power forward type game. And I think with that in mind, you know, no one thought Shane Wright was going to fall to number four last year, right? So I think that there is a world where Leo Carlson is the number two pick, and going off of kind of Anaheim's draft history the last 2 years. So that's number
Wow.
two with Anaheim. I know. Just to keep it interesting. I said I'd switch it up.
I mean,
Um,
you do bring up a lot of good points. I think that would be a mistake, and I
I
love
agree.
Leo Carlson to death. I think he's gonna be like honestly like in any other draft year, if Bedard and Fantilli don't exist, he's the number one pick by far.
Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very strong draft class.
Yeah, that's shocking.
I told you guys I'd switch it up.
Wow.
I
All
think the
right.
whole thing about the Carlson report too is I feel like that kind of happens in every team with every draft. No matter where you're picking Warner, Bedard, you're picking whoever. You're always gonna listen to offers. You're always gonna consider the possibilities of what does this guy bring to our team and what does this guy bring to our team. So that Carlson Fantilli debate is definitely one that the Ducks are having behind closed doors, but also a lot of teams are having that conversation about kind of everybody. So that report I think is a little bit um, I guess I don't want to say irrelevant. I'm just trying to say it's a pretty common factor with
Oh
every
yeah, for
report.
sure.
Yeah.
I just
So I
thought
think
the
Fantilli goes too, no doubt, but I think they're definitely having that conversation as to what can Fantilli bring versus what can Carlson bring to our team. So
yeah. I just think it'd be an interesting storyline,
it
especially
would.
given, like I mentioned, the last 2 years worth of draft picks up front, because we know Anaheim's invested a lot in their defense, so it's definitely going to be Carlson or Fantilli. 9 out of 10 times, you're probably right, but just to make this mock draft a bit more fun, I've
That makes
decided to
sense.
switch it up a little bit.
Wow. All right. Well, number three is me with the Jackets, and I mean it's Adam Fantilli, just based off what we've heard, right? I mean this would be a slam dunk pick for the Jackets. You already have, like we mentioned, I think you mentioned Kenton Johnson just a while ago.
Yeah,
They got Cole Sillinger, right? They have guys like Jordan Dumais, Luka Del Belbalus. Um, they have Grail Marchenko, right? And you're just adding an elite center to that group. Um, I think Fantilli is almost on Bedard's level. Not on Bedard's level, but he's pretty close. And yeah, Columbus just runs to the podium to select Fantilli there. I think he'd be a great fit there too. Um, you know, if you watch him with Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine, I think that'd be a hell of a line. Columbus has a good future. They got a really good future, especially with all the deep prospects we have there. Chuck and Colemans, right? They have Orensky, they have Yerchek, they just brought in Severson, they just brought in Provorov. That's a team that might be contending for a Stanley Cup in 3 to 4 years. So, and Fantilli will, off what we say here, will be a part of that core. So, Fantilli at three.
yeah,
Um,
pretty straightforward.
all right, number four, San Jose Sharks. We'd like to thank our fans back at the HP Pavilion for their great support this season. Also, our fans at the draft party at the Keg. We want to select Matvey Michkov fourth overall.
Oh,
Um,
Oh,
I just don't see how. I think if he falls below four, it's he's gonna be amazing. I think he's like for like the same amount of time Bedard's projected to be number one. There was also that conversation about Michkov being that number one guy, number two guy. The whole Russian KHL factor, forget about it, man. Like, I think if you're the San Jose Sharks, if you're gonna start being a rebuilding team, if Couture's on his way out soon, obviously Meyer's gonna be out. Meyer's already out. I'm thinking of Hurdle. Hurdle might go out soon as well. Guys like Eric Carlson, you might get a good haul from him. Um, I mean, you're going to get Mitch Cobb in about 2-3 years, anyways, and you're going to have all these other prospects you're going to draft either this draft or next draft, and you have a good pipeline of prospects coming as well. Mitch Cobb's a guy that can step in right away after his contract's up in Russia. I mean, this is shades of Malkin here. I think he's going to be a stud, and I think this is when you're talking about the draft, you want to be picking the best players available because you don't know what your team's going to look like in 2 to 3 years when they're eventually NHL ready. So I think this is just a slam dunk. I think they're going to be running to take this guy. I think if he falls anywhere below like 4 or 5, a team's going to be laughing. So hopefully 14. That would be what I hope for. But yeah, I just think it's a slam dunk for San Jose.
a
wow.
lot of Flyers and Capital fans heartbroken right now, Nick. That's they've
That's good.
been that's what all the reports have been saying. They've been saying that well we'll talk about the fourth player in a little bit, but there a lot of people are saying the top four is locked. Montreal is not sold on Mishkov at 5, and Arizona and Montreal are both willing to move down with either Philadelphia or Washington for Mishkov.
Makes sense.
So this is our hurt Flyers and Capital fans, but I can totally see it.
All right. I am Kent Hughes at number 5. I'm not gonna speak French because I suck at it.
Just Google
But
Translate it, bro. It's all good.
but with the 5th pick, the Montreal Canadiens select David Reinbacher. I think they're gonna pass up on Leonard and Will Smith. I've said this before. Montreal loves their off the board picks. They did it with Kotkaniemi, they did it with Slavkovsky, and I think they're gonna do it again here with David Reinbacher. Their D prospects are horrendous. Logan Mailloux is probably their best D prospect right now.
He's their best prospect, period. I'm just
Yeah, right.
saying.
But like they have nothing on the back end. Sure, Jordan Harris might be good. Gooley's fine, but they need more depth on that back end. And you just drafted Slavkovsky. You went with Philip Machar last year. You already have Luke Tuck. You got Jan Misak and a bunch of others. Um, I think they're gonna go off the board and take Reinbacher. And I'm pretty sure the word is they really, really like Reinbacher. And like I think Reinbacher is good. I don't think he's gonna be this stud Norris Trophy winner. But just going off what Montreal has done in the past, they like reaching for guys. I think they're gonna reach for this right-hand defenseman.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's a yeah. I mean, I would if I was Montreal, like if I was in your spot, Shay, I might lean towards Ryan Leonard, just because of like all those reports that have been coming out. But
Yeah,
I can see them. I just think I'm just not sure in this situation where Nick has passed up on who I will be taking, that Montreal wouldn't strongly consider this guy, because he was considered a lock for top four. But having said that, with the sixth overall pick of the 2023 NHL draft, the Arizona Coyotes are proud to select from the U.S. National Team Development Program and Boston College, William Smith.
yeah, slam dunk pick there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona's got a history, especially with Bill Armstrong, of taking guys, early on from the USHL slash NCAA. They did it with Logan Cooley. They've done it with Josh Doan.
Clayton Keller.
And I mean, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have done this by alphabetical order. um, but I mean, he's another. I mean, that's your 1-2 down the middle with Cooley and Smith, right? I mean, and,
Yep.
and I mean that's pretty incredible. And I mean, to have him fall at 6, I think Arizona runs that up to the board. I've been high on William Smith since I started evaluating these prospects back in December.
Hmm.
He was always a top 5 pick for me. And so the fact that he's available at 6 at this stage, I mean, I'll laugh if this happens in real life, because Montreal is going to be the one that I think most people will look back on and be like, "What were you thinking?" And as a Leafs fan, that's always good. But
Just make
but
sure you
yeah.
keep his wife's name out your mouth.
Also, I mean Smith. You mentioned Cooley. They have Dylan Gunsford, Schmaltz is there, Keller is there, Kraus is there. As much as we make fun of the Coyotes and their situation, this is another team that's going to be very, very good in the next few years. So,
They're gonna be
uh,
good. They just gotta get out of Arizona,
I
honestly.
know,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, that's a great pick.
And they got Dursey now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For Sean
there you
Dursey.
go. So with the 7th overall pick, Danny Briere's first draft as a GM of the Philadelphia Flyers, they're gonna take Ryan Leonard. Similar to what Siakam was saying with the whole history of Arizona and the USHL. Same thing here with the Flyers. They took Farabee in 2018. They took York in 2019, and they took Cutter Gauthier last year. So I think they go through a similar route. And not only that, I mean Ryan Leonard to me is the best player available. I mean Philly kind of needs everything at this point, but no, Leonard's been highly touted in these last few weeks. I think he's a perfect fit there, and yeah, I think most Philly fans would be ecstatic if Ryan Leonard falls to 7.
Yeah, I mean, there's real talk of him going in the top five, right? So, um, I think definitely the perfect kind of player for Philadelphia. Like he screams like
Also,
Philadelphia Flyer, you
I was
know,
just gonna say that, like, he kind of fits like their mold and what is a Philadelphia Flyer, just a hard nosed power forward.
with
So
skill, right? Like
yeah,
that's where they've really had a lot of great players, and it kind of fits the mold because that's what they tried to do with Cutter Gauthier last year. That's why they took him so high,
yeah,
even though most of us weren't that high on him. And they're gonna do it with Ryan Leonard. And I'm gonna be honest, I like Ryan Leonard as a prospect more than Cutter Gauthier personally. So I guess that speaks to the depth of the class this year.
yeah. Good point. Next up, I am the Washington Capitals, and now to me this can go a lot of different ways. I would have thought that the Caps go with um Mitchkov, but obviously he's gone now. So you know what? I'm gonna go with Zach Benson. Um, I'm pretty high on Benson. I was really high on him entering the season. I think he's fallen a bit, but to me, I mean, he had almost 100 points with the Winnipeg Ice. I think Washington just needs more young, skilled forwards at this point. They did draft Miroshnickovic last year, but besides that, they don't really have much. Hendricks Lapierre's kind of taking a stall in his development. Carmick Michael is slowly getting there, but he's not
That's legend.
there. Yeah, true. But like Mike Michael's not really an everyday NHLer just yet. I think Benson's close to being an NHLer. I think he's maybe like a year and a half away. And this guy's just a young, skilled playmaker, and he can probably be playing with Ovi in 2 years. And Ovi, I don't know, he can still hit 50 goals at the time. And yeah, I don't know. I just think Benson and the Caps make a lot of sense. I don't really
I
have a
think
good
that's a
reason
really
for
good
it.
fit, actually. I think it
Yeah,
reminds me more of the when Verona was there too. Just a skilled guy. Um, just found a way to score for the Capitals pretty much
yeah.
night in night out, despite playing Western minutes. I think they're similar players in a way, similar fit. So I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I think the only reservation I have with him going here at 8 is the size.
Yeah,
Right? He is a smaller forward, and we've seen how smaller guys have fallen in some drafts. But I think once you get into that 8 to 12 range, I think Benson is fair game. I think Savoy went what to Buffalo last year around this range.
yeah.
I think Caulfield went a bit later actually, right? Or was it in this range as well? But it was in like
Like
the late lottery.
14ish, 15ish.
Yeah, it was in the late lottery, right? And so this is kind of like I feel like this is the kind of the upper echelon of where Benson could go. So I think his range is really in these next five picks. So yeah, I could see Benson going here to the Capitals.
All right. I'm back on the clock. Number 9. I am Steve Eiserman and the Detroit Red Wings. And you know what? I'm just gonna hint at it right now. Eiserman also is going off the board. Sider at 6. When they took Kosa over Wallstead, and then they took Marco Kaspar last year. So my pick here is Matthew Wood.
Ooh.
Son of a bitch. Anyways, sorry.
I
I
just
really
think
want him on Pittsburgh. Sorry.
I just think he just kind of seems like an Eiserman player. He's a big forward. He has amazing offensive instincts, a great shot as well. I don't know where he's playing next year. I want to say he's playing somewhere in college. I don't know
He's
where
playing
for sure.
NCAA. I can't remember where. Give me a sec.
Yeah, like I feel like he's such an
He's playing for
Eisman.
UConn. He played for UConn this year, actually.
Oh, okay,
He
Yeah.
okay,
played
but
very well too.
yeah,
Point per game.
and I feel like Wood is just one of those underrated players going into the draft. Not, people know about him, but I don't think a lot of people are talking about him enough. And yeah, I just feel like he's a very Steve Yzerman pick, and I think he'd be a great fit on the Detroit Red Wings, who need more wingers. They got their defense kind of planned out. They have their centers planned out. They need to stack up on those wings, help out Lucas Raymond and those guys. I think Matthew Wood's the perfect fit there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not gonna lie, I had him planned for one of my later picks, so I am rather upset that he's gone right now, but Matthew Wood's a great player. Great player. Very productive this year in college with UConn. So, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him at the World Juniors next year with Canada.
Yeah.
Very good player. So yeah, definitely don't hate that pick at all. I mean, if honestly, I would have considered him like at Washington's pick for you. That's like I'm very high on Matthew Wood. All right, with the 10th pick in the 2023 NHL draft, Doug Armstrong and the St. Louis Blues are proud to select from the Swedish Hockey League because I'm not pronouncing that team name, Axel Sandin Polika.
Yeah, I
I
agree with
mean,
that one.
I'm gonna be honest. If there is one pick here outside of like the top three or four that I would like bet my money on or like bet my life on is gonna be the pick, it's ASP at 10. I mean, Perunovic is literally the only prospect, and they just extended him yesterday. And he's got injury concern issues, and not to mention, it looks like St. Louis is trying to enter a retool. They're trying to shut, at least from reports yesterday, they're trying to move off of maybe Scandella, maybe Krug. They've been trying to shop Pareko for the last like 5 months. Um, so clearly, they're trying to get younger on the blue line. They're trying to move off some of these long-term contracts that they've invested, and I think ASP's got the highest upside of any defenseman in this class. I think he's tied. I think he's 1A, 1B in terms of upside with another defenseman that hasn't been drafted yet. But I think he's very good with the puck. He's played in the SHL this year, which not a lot of rookie defensemen can say. He only played 6 minutes a game, but I think he didn't get caved in those 6 minutes a game, and I think that's promising. And he had a decent World Juniors with Sweden, so I think especially given the lack of talent that St. Louis has just in their prospect pool
Yeah.
on the blue line, I think he's the clear-cut number two defenseman in this class, and I think he's a no-brainer at pick 10.
All right.
All right, and back to me for pick number 11, Vancouver Canucks. Patrick Alvin up on the podium there. Um, I think they're gonna go a little bit off the board here. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're gonna take. I fucking forgot his name. Willander. Tom
Wow.
Willander.
Wow,
All right. Here's the thing. Vancouver is absolutely dead on defense. Like they
that's
have
also true.
nobody. I was looking at their depth chart earlier. They have like Quinn Hughes and then everybody else. That's their decor, man. They have nobody on their prospect pool. They have nobody. It's like super notable on that decor in the NHL. They draft out of Sweden a lot. They need a guy like him, a guy that's hard to play against. He's got a motor. I would have taken Sendin Pellikka if he was available. I don't know if he'll be available by 11. I think that'd be a great pick. But I also think he's sort of plays a similar style to Quinn Hughes, and you already have Quinn Hughes as your number 1D. And I think Tom Willander, I think it's just a good fit for the Canucks. He could be a top four guy for you. He's a guy that you can kind of build around with Quinn Hughes. I mean, they're kind of pass up on a lot of names here, but I think the fit is just better for them. And it's a good sort of building block for that back end because they literally have nobody. I'm looking at their depth chart and I'm like, no, like half these guys they're just not it. Like seriously, that's just to make things more interesting. I think that's a fair bet. I guess I don't know. It's interesting, but
Okay.
it's also a Swedish. He's going to be playing for Boston College next year. I didn't know that. So
Oh,
interesting. Or
Oh,
no, Boston University. Sorry.
Boston
But yeah,
University. I
okay.
mean, he
and they've
he
also
has
they
been
drafted her there quite a bit too. So I mean,
yeah. I mean,
we'll see what happens.
Hoglander, like Karamaki,
Yeah,
Pedersen, obviously,
another Pedersen.
definitely, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he has been a riser in a lot. He's been a very late riser. We always see a couple of those every year, and more often than not, the hype actually turns out to be true. So, yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm wrong. I'm lying. I would be surprised if he went at 11, but it makes sense. The fit. It is a weaker class than usual for Swedish defensemen. He is the clear cut number two Swedish defenseman in my mind. So yeah, for sure. All right, pick. Oh, that's me. At pick 12, with the pick that they received from Ottawa in the Jacob Chychrun deal, the Arizona Coyotes would like to thank their fans.
What fans?
Um, yeah. Moving on. For their support this season, and with the 12th pick in the 2023 NHL draft, the Arizona Coyotes would like to select Oliver Moore from
That's a
the
good pick,
U.S.
man.
National Development Team. I
Yeah, he
mean,
fell.
Moore is one of my guys. I've been a huge fan of the U.S. players this year in this class, and he's just so good. I really I'm gonna be honest. If um I would have in my mock originally, I had him going at 7 to Philly. That's how much I'm a fan of his game. And again, with Arizona's history with Armstrong, love their U.S. players. He's another U.S. player, great value. Plays the game the right way. Super shifty, so shifty. Perfect play driver. I mean, you put him on the line. I mean, can you imagine a second line with Moore and Smith, right? And you just stick a sniper on that line. Like, oh my God, right? That would be a 6 second line going forward for them. So yeah, definitely love this pick here for the Arizona Coyotes are ecstatic leaving the draft room.
All right. Um, Pick 13, Buffalo. Kevin Adams and the Buffalo Sabres are pleased to select, might shock you, defenseman Mikhail Gulyev.
Oh.
I think Buffalo has. Here's the thing. We know how good the prospects on the forward side at least for Buffalo are. You know, they got Jack Quinn for Turka. They had Isaac Rosen just last year, Savoy, Osling, Kulich, right? I mean, not to mention you got Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins and Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuck and Casey Middlestad and Peyton Krebs. They got a lot of freaking forwards. And I mean, they do have Del. And the reason I'm taking defenseman here is yes, they have Deline. Yes, they have Owen Power. And Samuelson is okay. He's decent. They don't really have anyone else besides Ryan Johnson. So I think they're gonna go a bit off the board here and take Mikhail Gulyev, who's a very, very good offensive defenseman from Russia. Amazing skater. Needs to work on his defense, but I mean, that's I think most 18-year-olds who play defense need to work on their defense anyway. So I'm really high on Mikhail Guliev. I think he's going to be a stud, and he'll slot into that top four in the next few years in Buffalo. Maybe it's shocking to you guys, but I think they go a bit off the board here.
All right,
Yeah.
and it's me next with the 14th pick. Unless you had something to
Mm.
add there, I think I
Oh
answered
no,
it.
I was just gonna say Guyev's very a lot of different scouts have different rankings of him. I think he can go anywhere from like late lottery to like end of the first round. Like he's got a
He's very raw.
very raw player, very wide range. But I think with Buffalo, I mean they got Matthias Samuelson, Power, Darlene. So I mean they have that top four stabilized for like the next 2-3 seasons, I think. And so it gives them time to get Gulyev ready to kind of fill that top four role 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
When some guys might need to get paid. And so yeah, no, I could see it. Personally, he's not my number three defenseman in the class. And there've been four taken already. Um, and my number three guy still hasn't gone. But yeah, I mean, he's a good player. I liked him a lot in December when I first assessed him.
All right, so back to 14. Kyle Dubas, his first draft with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pretty excited about that. There's a few players here that I'd love to see in a Pens jersey. I think there's a few that really fit. It's a bit of a tough choice here, but I'm gonna go with Dalibor Dvorsky,
Oh, that'd
14th
be such a good
overall.
pick for you.
Great pick.
I'd love to see Dvorsky in a Penguins jersey. I think we just really need a guy like him, a guy that has skill, can score, and can also play the two-way game. Because I mean, Jeff Carter and Michael Granlund. I mean, that's just no, absolutely not. Just no. I mean, Dvorsky is would be just, especially when you have guys like Crosby and Malkin that are probably close to being on their way out by the time Dvorsky comes in. I think he'll be a stud. Honestly, I think he'll be great. I don't know if the Penguins are going to lean toward that direction. I can honestly see them taking a guy like maybe Barlow, maybe Crystal at this spot if they're available. But I think when you look at a guy that has almost no holes in his game, I look at a guy like Dvorsky, and I look at a high impact player here for the Penguins, which is someone that they desperately need because their prospect pool is so garbage. They need a guy. He's immediately the best prospect when they pick him. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's a slam dunk here.
I agree, man.
No, I agree. I agree. I think Dvorsky is definitely the pick.
I have 15. Shoot, sorry. Let me just take a quick look at Nashville's depth chart here, so I don't sound like hey, you know what? I'll just take Kobe Barlow here. He could be a
Okay.
good fit for the Predators. He's
Good,
just
good pick.
he's a goal scorer, and um, I think with the Predator, let me just look at their fucking depth chart here real quick. Sorry, totally unprepared. I had no idea I had back-to-back picks here. Give me one sec here. Kobe Barlow, I think, is the best player available at this point. I think
I
his
agree.
compete level is very high. His shot is just unreal. He can score from just about anywhere. He had a really good U18s. Um, and I think the thing with Nashville as well is I mean, Luke Evangelista, Knights legend, he might be a pretty serviceable player for them at forward. But apart from that, like maybe Luro, there's not really a ton of forwards there. Svechkov, maybe. But I think, oh no, he's under contract for the Preds. Never mind. I just don't know if there's a ton of guys there that are going to be high impact players. I think Barlow's that guy that can play in the top six. You can put him on the power play, and he can just rip pucks, man. He'll make a living doing that. So I think this is could be a decent fit here for Nashville. They also selected a guy like Tomasino a few years back who um, was a high end player in the OHL as well when he was there. I think the fit is decent as well. I think if that they could reach for a defenseman as well, just because they're so good at developing defensemen. But I think Barlow's your best player available here, personally. So
I
Okay.
agree. Yeah. No, definitely agree. I mean, I had Barlow's the top remaining player on my board as well, so not exactly shocked with that. Now we have another rookie general manager taking over from his previous assistant manager role for this team. Taking over for now the now departed Brad Treliving is Craig Conroy and the Calgary Flames. And with the 16th overall pick, we would like to select from the Kelowna Rockets of the Western Hockey League, Andrew Crystal. Um, he's
That makes sense.
I mean, look, like this is again going back into the well. I think Crystal goes in this range. I think this is an appropriate range for him. And on top of that, the big thing is Conroy. Yes, this is his first draft, and maybe it deviates, but he has been the AGM for Calgary for like forever now, and it's the same scouting team. And what have we seen with the Flames in the past couple of years? They love taking productive players in junior, right? And if people might not be sold, maybe they say he's too small, but what they cannot deny is that he's been productive. One of the most productive players in junior hockey this season. 95 points in 50 games for Kelowna, almost 40 goals. Like he's just a point producer, right? And Calgary has always gone by that. They've taken the best player in terms of production with their picks, and I think he fits their team as well. And they need an infuse of talent up front as well. So yeah, no, I think Cristal is. I just think this is not the right range for a defenseman for them right now. I
Um,
just don't see it.
Also, Ryan Huska worked for the Kelowna Rockets, so a bit of a connection there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. At 17, I am back with Detroit, and for me, this is kind of a no-brainer. I'm gonna go with Edward Solly, um, who was supposed to be a top 10 pick entering this draft in the first place. I think I had him close to my top five back in December. For whatever reason, he started to fall off a bit, but I mean, he's an elite offensive threat. Great hockey IQ to begin with. Just a very skilled, talented player all around. And once again, Detroit kind of needs to fill out those wingers around their center core. I think he'd be a good fit there. He can might be 2 3 years away, but Iceman kind of likes his overseas guys as well. So I think Solly goes to Detroit at 17 there.
Yeah, Sally's just had a tough year tough year for his draft year. I think his production took a bit of a nosedive this year in the Czech league. If I remember correctly, yeah, he had 14 points in 43 games this year with the team, which, to be fair, is probably in line with what he was last year. It's
Mhm.
just, he spent most of last year in the lower leagues before moving up. He played in the Czech U20 league before he came, so he only really played 10 games with the big with men, and
Yeah.
so I suppose I think part of it is that people were maybe expecting him to take a step forward coming into this season to really establish like, hey, like he's a top five pick, but he kind of just performed in line with what he did last year. He didn't really take that step, which is why people kind of dropped him out of that top seven range, right? Because they were just more productive players that went ahead of him. But Saleh has a very high ceiling, so I like him a lot.
All right, I think I'm back on the clock here. Winnipeg, I mean, they're gonna basically implode this off season. Um, for Winnipeg, I think they can go multiple options here. But to me, there's another great player that's still available, and if he falls at 18, that's gonna be wild. I got Braden Yeager
Yeah.
going to the Winnipeg Jets. I think once again, kind of a no-brainer. He has an elite shot. Um, I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of downsides, a lot of weaknesses actually with Jaeger's game. I mean, Winnipeg's gonna need more offensive forwards when guys like Shifley leave. Obviously, PLD's probably gone. Maybe Ehlers, maybe guy like Kyle Connor. You got to restock those forwards, and they did draft guys like Lucius and Lambert, and so on and so on. But you got to add more to it. Cole Perfetti's not in elite forward yet, and you want to kind of build around him. Get him a good sniper winger, and obviously Perfetti has playmaking. Um, give him a 40 goal winger in the future. So I think Jaeger goes to Winnipeg. I think that's a good fit there.
Yeah,
All
agreed.
right. And back to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Chicago, the last few drafts around this stage have gone a little bit off the board, taking guys like Lucas Reichel, Nolan Allen. And I think I mean, yeah, they're, I think their best area, though, in their prospect pool is defense. They have guys like Del Mastro, and obviously they're going to believe in Allen because he's a first round pick. I
Krasinski.
think, yeah, him as well. So I think they take Riley Height with this pick. Um, I think he's a player that just put the Prince George Cougars on his back this year, man. 97 points in 68 games. I think Prince George like won their first playoff series in like forever, and he
Yeah.
scored the winning
Yeah.
goal. I mean, he's a competitor. He just seems like a good fit for the Blackhawks. I think their style of game really fits Height, and I think he'll be a really premier player for that team when you have guys like Nazar that are coming in. If Reichel ends up making another step, he could end up, just sliding right behind him, and maybe Connor Bedard and Height can play in the power play. He can kill penalties as well. I think he's just all around just a really good player. A little bit undersized, 5'10", but um, I think he's that energy that Chicago loves to bring to their team, and I think it's just a good fit for them. When you look at their decor, there's not like a ton of names that jump out at you, but guys like Korchinski and Del Mastro, who they are going to believe in because they drafted them so high, they're going to give them a chance. So I think they're going to take a forward here, no question. And I think Height's your guy if he's available at this pick.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the I'm so happy you took Riley Height in the first round because I did not want to be that guy who had to make because there's a lot of people that don't think Riley Height's a first round draft pick, and I really like his play. I definitely think he's worth a first round pick, and you're right with Chicago. There's a couple of other names that were off the board that you could have considered, but I'm so glad you took Riley Height here, man. You don't understand. Like I've been
There's a
touting.
few players they could definitely take. I was looking at like who's available in the range at like some players have fallen. I think Height's a guy that may have fallen a little bit. He's pretty unanimous. Looks like the first round though, either at this point till like the late 30s. So I mean, we'll
Yeah,
see what happens.
yeah.
I just think it's a good
Um,
fit for the Blackhawks personally.
nah, for sure, for sure. I think here at pick 20 with the Seattle Kraken, their first pick of the draft, I think it was between two players for me, and I didn't, well, three, and I couldn't really believe that there two of them were still available at this point, but I gotta go with Callum Ritchie, man. Such a good player.
I almost picked him with Chicago.
Yeah,
He is really good.
yeah.
He's a player that's been yeah. I mean, I'll let you take it away. I have some thoughts on him too, but
Yeah, you know what? You take it first. You're our
okay.
resident OHL guy.
That is true. Callum Ritchie's a guy that had a very slow start to the year. He's a guy that was very good last year, been very highly touted throughout his minor hockey career. Um, and he's a player that just got better and better as the year kind of gone on. And I think a player like that you see fall quite often in the draft, and a lot of those players you see end up being really good coming out of the draft. I think Ritchie's a guy. I think scouts were left wanting more with him, but I think he's a guy that's going to really take a big step up next year with Oshawa, um, who aren't a who weren't a great team last year either to begin with. So I mean, I think this is. I think you're right. I think this is a slam dunk pick for Seattle. They took a guy like Shane Wright, who fell last year. They have a really good prospect pool as well. Um, for the amount of time they've been in the NHL, I mean, I think they're lower on
Yeah, I
prospects.
mean
Ty
Ty
Nelson, David
Nelson.
Goyette, who are two of my
Yeah,
favorite players. Like
Jagger
Jagger
Furcus.
Furcus.
Jeff Furcus, like this is yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a great pick for Seattle. Um, in terms of ceiling, especially, like I think Richie's got one of the better ceilings out of the players that went before him. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, if Dvorsky wasn't, if for example, like in a world where Dvorsky had gone before 14, right, and a guy like Oliver, and maybe it was between like Zach Benson, or Callum Ritchie, I really do think that Kyle Dubas at 14, Ritchie is a Kyle Dubas type player, right? Because you can see with the Maple Leafs draft history with their kind of plan is like they love taking guys who are a little bit unheralded, but are projected to take a big role and to produce a huge level next season. Their draft plus one season, right? They did it with Minton last year, and they've done it with like a lot of players that Dubas has drafted. And so I think Richie, sneaky guy to go maybe even as high as 14 at Pittsburgh. I could see a
I would
fit there
love him in
too.
Pittsburgh. I think that'd
Yeah,
be a great pick. Moving on to 21, it would be the Minnesota Wild. Their prospect pool is just loaded, man.
loaded,
They have so many good
dirty.
I
players.
know.
So I think if you're the Wild, you just kind of take the best player available here. I think that's Gabe Perreault.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he is a unit, man. He just scores 132 points this year, lit up the U18s as well. He's gonna go and play. He is actually not committed to a team yet, so I'm not sure what they're thinking. I wonder if Sarnia have his rights. They do have his rights. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. So he could play for Sarnia as well. Who are going to be losing a lot of names though. We'll see what happens with Perot, but either way, he's just a tremendous scorer. I think of a guy like Boldy, who was also a really good scorer before coming to the Wild, and he ended up being really good for them. Um, I think this is a guy that could probably go a lot higher. I think Bob McKenzie has him ranked like 10th or something. So he'll probably go in and around that range come draft day. But I think this is a slam dunk here for the Wild to take a guy like him. I mean, they've taken guys from the U.S. development program quite often the last few
Faber.
drafts. Yeah, Faber. Yeah, so I think it's just a good fit for them and their best player available for sure.
Yeah, my one concern with Pro is just his skating. And that's why I could see him falling. Kind of the way like I thought Geeky would fall when Arizona took him in like 11th or something. But Perot's skating is probably his weakest point. But every other aspect of his game is very good, very polished. So good pick, good pick, good pick.
All right. Danny Briere's back on the clock. They got this pick from Columbus in the Provorov trade, and I do think they take a defenseman here. I think they take Lucas Dravisevich with
Ooh,
pick 22. I think you already have Cam York back there, and you do have Helgi Grans. But besides that, is there really anyone else that can be a legit everyday NHLer? I don't see it. And I mean, they're gonna trade probably Sanheim. D'Angelo is 90% sure gone. So they're gonna need an NHL demon in the next few years to take on those roles. Travis Savage is probably one of the best offensive defensemen in this draft,
yeah,
maybe the best offensive defenseman. He'll quarterback a power play, and I don't think there's any risk here. Sure you want him to polish up his defensive game, but I think Cam York can help in that area in the next few years. But yeah, I think they're gonna go Dravicevic. They need to add to their deep prospect pool, and I think that'd be a really good fit there.
No, I agree. And another thing is, you mentioned he's an offensive defenseman. I think that's what Philly needs.
Yeah,
Because you look at the young
100%.
defensive prospects right now, there's not really a guy you can point to and go, you know what, 3 years from now, this guy's going to be quarterbacking our power play.
Tony D'Angelo. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I could definitely see the pick there. Um, Here with the 23rd pick, um, Mr. Drury and the New York Rangers would like to select from the Ontario Hockey League, Quentin Musty. Um, might be a bit of a surprising pick.
I know you're a big Musty fan.
I am a big Musty fan, and I think given his size and his profile and the way he plays, he is a very New York Rangers draft pick, right? I mean, I was if you know if if he was gone, there were some other guys, but you look at their draft history, right? They took Othman pretty high, right? Who also kind of plays like a bit of a power forward. They took Cooley last year, who's another like 6'2" dude, right? And like they like taking their shot at like these like big players that that play strong on the puck and like have skill, right? And I think just on off of like, are there better players available at this point than Musty? I think it's debatable, right? Because I think it's a deep forward class. I think Musty is comparable to anybody else at the forward position in this class, right? But I think with the size profile and given Drury's past since he's taken over for the Rangers, I think it's a good fit. I think it fits in line with what the Rangers have valued out of their forward prospects the last couple of years.
all right.
Back to me with the 24th pick. This is the pick from the Oilers. I don't know what trade this is from. Maybe you can.
Ekholm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Um, I'm gonna select here defenseman Dmitry Simashev,
Oh, thank
24th
God.
overall. This guy's very raw. But some scouts seem to love him. Like McKean's has him number 9, and McKean's is normally very reliable with their draft rankings. He's ranked in the top 10 quite everywhere. He is very explosive. He moves around um, laterally really, really well. I think he's a pure offensive defenseman. Nashville kind of has a history of selecting guys from Russia. Um, Guys like Askarov, guys like
Svechkov.
Svechkov.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and Nashville is just amazing at developing defensemen. So I think it's just, I want to say safe pick just based on the fit, but it's really, I mean, Simashev could really go anywhere from the 10th pick to here. Um, so we'll see what
I'm
happens. But
yeah, I'm really glad you took him again. Like with height and like I was watching Simashev fall, and I was like at the Rangers pick, I was really like, can I really let this guy fall any farther, right?
right,
And I was like, but I had Musty penciled in my mock when I was preparing for this, and I was like, the fit there is just so good. I just can't. But Simashev, I mean, like I said, he's the guy I was talking about, my number 3 defenseman in this draft class that hadn't gone yet, and like 6 defensemen have gone already. But he's 6'4", moves really well for a 6'4" guy. I mean, like his skating is for a defenseman is one of the best in the class, and he's 6'4" to boot. Like,
he has all the tools. I don't think he's played very much
no, because he's in the
as well.
KHL.
So exactly
Yeah,
right.
he's in the
So,
KHL. They're not gonna give a guy like him that much ice time.
but he's playing
So
the MHL and he's played it pretty well at the MHL from what I can see. Like he's put up some decent numbers.
yeah,
So I think especially I might just be one of those like kind of like a guy like kind of like a guy like Richie. I'm trying to think of other players that are. Oh, Grayson Sachin. I think he's going to be unreal too. But on a team like Seattle, where he's not playing a ton of minutes, he might go a little bit lower. But I think he's going to be one of the better players in this class.
he'll
And I
he'll be
think the
kind of
same
like
thing with
Minton, right?
Chef.
He'll kind of be
Yeah.
like
Oh,
Minton last year for Toronto.
he'll be unreal.
He'll be
Yeah.
he'll be like a late first, early second round draft pick situation. St. Louis back on the board, and by the time we actually hit draft season, this pick will probably belong to Philadelphia. But
Oh yeah, probably.
but because it's not the trade hasn't happened yet, I still get to pick with this pick. And with the 25th overall pick, the St. Louis Blues would like to select from the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League,
Woo woo.
Oliver Bonk. I
Damn.
mean, look. Uh, Wait, where'd Oliver Bonk go? All right.
Down, bottom
Oh,
right,
he's down
bottom
here.
right.
All right, because
Yeah.
he's a defenseman. All right, there you go. I think St. Louis again going through their draft history, they like to take defensemen from either the USHL or the OHL, right? With their picks, they took Vince Dunn a couple years ago from Niagara. They took a guy from the Guelph Storm with one of their first three picks last year. Perunovic was from the USHL, but Jake Wallman was from the OHL. So they like to take the defenseman from the Ontario Hockey League, and I think Bonk is a late riser in a lot of the draft processes, much as Willander has been. And I do think the first round hype on him is real. And I think, um, you get two defensemen, right? Really, really liven up that group. And that's not really a position then you have to worry about too much going forward, right? If guys start to age out, right? We always worry about Parayko's injury, Cruz likely out, right? Falk is aging, right? They need to get young on the blue line fast. And some may say, look, you took ASP at 10, why would you take another defenseman? I think, especially if you're in St. Louis's position, if you really truly are committed to trying to stay competitive over the next 4 or 5 years of the lifetime of Kyrou and Robert Thomas's deals, you need to have guys that in 2 or 3 years can step in for aging blue liners. And because they have literally no one right now, I think their first two picks in the first round both go blue line.
Oliver Bonk is a player that's not flashy. He's very steady. He's very big. Skating might need a little bit of work. I think that's sort of the big read on him. When I always watched Bonk play, you just kind of feel good when he's in your back end because he's a guy that doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He plays very smart. You feel almost relieved with him in the back end. I think he's gonna be one of those sneaky good players that maybe doesn't put up a ton of points, but can play a lot of minutes and can play really well defensively. He was one of their key pieces for the Knights this year, and I think he's warranted to go in the first round, especially at this stage. I think he's a safe pick here for St. Louis. I think that's a good shout. And now me with 26. So San Jose, they get a big splash in Matvey Michkov. I'm going to go, I'm trying to think here. There's a few names that are available here still that have fallen.
Yeah,
Um, I am going to go, I think, Theo Lindstein here with this pick, defenseman.
I like it.
Um, he's a guy that had a lot of hype around him a couple years ago. He's fallen a little bit, but he's played in the SHL, I believe, maybe the Allsvenskan. I can't remember.
I think so.
Um, Plays in a really good program. I think he plays for Brenus. Lindsay's a very mobile player. I think he was listed as a forward at one point. I remember a couple years back too, so he may be a little bit versatile there as well. He's got the mobility, um, and he's already played against men as well. So he's a guy I think that it's going to just bulk up the back end a little bit better for the Sharks. Again, there's not a ton of names they have in their prospect pool because they've been so good for so long. But Lindstein's a good player. You can kind of build from the back. I think he's a very safe pick at this range.
Yeah, he played
And
32 games
yeah,
last year in the SHL. So I
yeah,
don't know.
he's a
HL.
legit defenseman. I think he's a surefire first rounder. Um, and I think this is exactly where he should go. I think he should go around this range, and I think San Jose makes a good splash here, taking Michkov and Lindstein here in the first round.
All right, I am 27. And by the way, we have 5 minutes left in the call, so we'll chat
Shit.
early on
Okay.
the list. Um,
Okay.
I think Conrad goes with a safe pick here, and I think if he falls to 27, they take him
Nate
right away. You're gonna kill
Danielson.
me. You're gonna
Nate
kill me for
Danielson.
saying
I'm
that.
gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. Don't take
It's
him.
Nick
Don't take.
Danielson.
Take. Ah!
Nick
No!
Danielson, hard forward to play against.
Oh my
He's gonna be
God.
an NHLer, maybe not the highest ceiling,
I'm
but
so
big power forward.
I'm so upset
Tough
right
to
now.
play against.
Uh,
Probably on your second power play, key penalty killer, kind of like Yanni Gord. Um,
I'm
the
so
Avs
upset.
would love this player.
I'm so upset. I'm so
He is
upset right
really good.
now.
I like him a lot too.
I'm so upset right now. I'm so upset. My day's been ruined. Yeah, that's exactly what Colorado needs. Another stud who was projected to go top 15 in a lot of mocks and falls to them at 27. Exactly what they need. All right, with Toronto, my team, and this is a really homer pick for anyone who doesn't know. I go to University of Waterloo, so I'm in the Kitchener area, and I've talked about this guy to Shea so many times.
Yeah.
I think he's the best four direction skater out of any blue liner in this draft class. I think was one of the best, most productive defensemen in the Ontario Hockey League this season. I can't say his last name, but Hunter
Versevich.
Versevich. Yeah,
Oh man, you're
I
pushing all the right buttons. I really like him too. He's unbelievable.
yeah, I watched. I've had the I was fortunate enough to actually watch a couple of his games, one or two of his games in person this year. And I mean, what a player! I think he was my favorite player on Kitchener this season. And I love him.
All right. Next up. Yep.
Yep.
AirPods died. Okay, perfect. All right. With the 26th pick with St. Louis, this is another player that I really like. Um, is he's committed to Michigan, I believe, and that's Gavin Brindley. I think you've taken two defensemen off the board. He was really productive this year for Michigan, that near point per game. Kind of like Matthew Wood, not as productive. He's a bit smaller, only 5'10", but he's super underrated. And I think St. Louis needs some young goal scoring in their prospect pool. So I think you come out of this draft, ASP, Bonk on your blue line, and a legit offensive threat in Brindley.
All right. Number 30.
All right, 30 is the Carolina Hurricanes. I am going to select. Lost my train of thought here again. Who was I picking again? Also from Kitchener, Carson Rakoff. Another player that I really like. He's got some snarl. He can play the grindy game a bit, but he can also score goals. He's just a perennial power forward down the middle. He's big. He can skate really well. I think it's a good fit for Carolina because they have a lot of skill guys. But I can't really think of a ton of guys that have skill and have grit kind of at the same time. But I think you can kind of put Rakoff in any situation and he'll succeed. He doesn't have to play a ton of minutes for the Canes, but he'll be really reliable for them.
All right. Number 31. We'll see if we can get this done in 2 minutes. Under a minute. Oh shit.
Uh oh.
Number 31. I mean, I guess so. Number 31 with Montreal. Daniel Boo. Um, he's in
Silaboo!
Liverpool. Exactly. It's perfect. Kind of reminds me of Tage Thompson, where he has the size and the skill and the shot, but he needs to put it all together to make it work. But if he does, watch out because he could be a beast. But like I said, he's more of a project at this stage. But with pick 31, you definitely take the risk on him.
I'm picking this player purely because I don't think he'll go at this stage, but he just deserves it, and that's Easton Cowan, man. He's my underrated prospect, and I think it's just because I've watched him so much, obviously being in London. Um, he is just a player that I first watched him play in his OHL debut last year. And right away you notice he's just such a hard worker on the forecheck. He's always chasing towards pucks, stripping pucks off of players. He's got skill. He's got a shot. I think he's just going to be a player that just finds a way to make it. He was one of the key pieces for the Knights of why they made it to the final. Him and Denver Barkey, honestly, they look like the Sedin twins, which is funny because their nickname is the twins because they look so alike. But I think Cowan is just such a hard worker. And when you play under a guy like Dale Hunter, who just constantly pumps out talent, um, a guy like Cowan, I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he could be like I said, he's just gonna find a way to make it, whether it's bottom six, a penalty killer. If he happens to make like a top nine of a team, it's gonna find a way. He's gonna find a way to make it work, and I just think he deserves his recognition because he's my underrated prospect, and I just think he's unreal. I think he's an amazing player, and yeah, off the board. But that's my last pick, and that's why I specifically asked for Cowan to be in this list, so that's I could show him off a little bit here. Also,
I had
great
to,
name.
yeah, I had to delete a player. Don't remember which one from the big board to get him in
I don't
there,
know.
but
Okay,
Yeah,
so next slide. So there's still a lot of players that we have available on here because this draft is pretty deep. I don't know if we should go through all of them. No, I think what we should do is
one, two,
like
three,
honorable
right,
mentions. That makes
right,
yes.
sense.
and we pick like our three guys. Obviously, don't talk about the same person. Someone else has already talked about them. But yeah, we can do that. Um, I'll just lead it off because I only had 10 picks this draft, and you guys both got 11.
Sure.
That I mean, this is the guy I was talking about that I was shocked did not go in the first round with Samuel Honzek. I've seen a lot of hype for him to go top 10, top 15 even, top 15, top 10 even. I think he's real. He's I think if I go back to my rankings back in December, my mock back in December, I had Hanzek going 30th, so I wasn't that hot on him. But the one I did in February, he was 28th. So he was like pretty much like he was never a guy who was gonna go top 10, top 15 for me. But a lot of mocks did have him there, and I just think he's a first round caliber player. So he would be my.
I just don't know much about him. Like I know he's supposed to be in the first round. I've seen some mock drafts, but I just don't know much about him. I'm gonna be honest. It's
But I did see that like a lot of there's a tweet. I mean, he is 6'4", so that's something, right?
yeah.
Like that might just be part of the reason why. But he was really productive for the Giants. 56 points in 43 games, 23 goals.
Um. Okay, I guess I'll go. I thought about taking Cataford in that first round. I didn't. Played on a pretty strong Halifax team, but he was one of the key leaders on that team. He's a pretty good goal scorer as well. I think he played with Dumais on Halifax there, but I think he's going to be a safer bet. I don't think he'll go in the first round, but I think he's definitely if there's going to be a player that goes off the board, I think he's definitely one of them. His compete level is really good as well. Very smart player, and those types of players that just work hard, have good hockey sense, just seem to find a way to make it. And Cataford probably going to be a top 9 guy if anything, but
Yeah.
I think he's a safe bet if you're picking in the second, third round. I think he'll just find a way to make it.
All right. For me, my one of my honorable mentions. I love this player. I actually had to tell Lucia, Ryan to put him on. He wasn't on here originally. Oscar Fisker Mogard. Playing in Sweden right now. He's in my opinion, one of the best defensive forwards in this draft right now. He doesn't have the offensive creativity just yet, but you can definitely develop that in the Swedish league. He's already playing against grown men, and he's really, really fast. He really reminds me of Alex Iafallo, just an amazing two-way forward with some offensive instincts. If he can develop into that, just like very good middle six forward, into that pick as a late first rounder, early second rounder, great pick there. I really hope he falls to the Oilers because I think he'd be a good fit there.
No, I have no like assessment
I
on Molgar at all.
I
Never
clicked on
heard of
him
him.
the other day because I liked his name. And that was it.
Yeah, so that's a good shout, Shay. There's still a couple of good names, but I'm just gonna go with another guy who I mocked in the first round that didn't end up going, and that's Cone Zemer. Um, about Prince George's season this year without talking about two names, and that's Riley Height and Cone Zemer, right? And I mean he had eight games player, and you know who, who's that productive. And you could argue between him and Height, right? I think Height was definitely the more influential player, more important to team success. But Ziemmer was basically his right hand guy, and so or left hand man. I don't remember what the term is. So I think he was really important to their success as well. And I think he's just a really 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 good player.
All right. A guy I'm going to mention here as well is goaltender Trey Augustine. I just think he's a guy that has done so much at his age already. It's pretty unbelievable. Like he's had an amazing year at the U.S. program. He played at the World Juniors and he started for the U.S. at the World Juniors, which is pretty notable. When you look at guys that have like guys um, from the U.S. and from Russia that haven't really you don't see guys his age start for those countries, especially for the U.S. I mean, I feel like they're they're a country that just pumps talent, obviously, but especially goaltending guys like John Gibson in the past who's played in that tournament. But he was older. I mean, Augustine is draft eligible 17. He's starting at U20, which is pretty unbelievable. So I I don't want to say he'll go in the first round. I don't know if he will just because goaltender, but I think he'll be one of the first guys gone. And he's already got quite the resume. And I think you kind of look for that in a goaltender. Guys like Vasilevsky, who for years was just stopping pucks, and look at him now. He's like a heart. candidate most years. So just an unbelievable goaltender. And I think with Augustine, with that same track record, not the same track record, but a similar track record to that, I think it's a very safe bet among goaltenders this year, and a year that's not very deep for goaltenders. But I think he deserves some recognition.
Okay, my next pick, Maxime Strawbeck. Kind of similar to Maverick Lamoureux pick from Arizona last year, but I think Strawbeck might have more potential. He's going to be a shutdown guy in the NHL. Not much else to say. I think he is, once again, a bit on the safer side, but there's nothing wrong with that. I think he'll be a late penalty killer out there. And I think any team could use a guy like Strawbeck. So, yeah, I think maybe a team could reach on him in the first round. I don't really see it, but yeah, I think he's a good second round pick for any team.
First round, I think an interesting guy that I had him mocked in February to this team, Carolina with Brett Pesci.
Yes.
I don't think he'll reach the level of player that Pesci is as a guy who can legitimately play on your top pair and not worry. But I think he's got a kind of potential to him. And worst case scenario, you got a guy who can play bottom pair minutes, and you don't have to worry too much defensively when he's on the ice for you in those minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna put this guy in here not because I like him, and I know for a fact Shay's not a fan of him either, but I feel like he's a good talking point, and
Is
he's a guy that a lot of people expect to go in the first round. Um, this guy is my Claire Gauthier. So know from last year, so knowing me, he's gonna go really
oh.
soon. But it is Charlie Stramel. I mean, don't get me wrong, Stramel's a fine player. I think he'll be a third liner one day, and that's
Yeah, but that's it.
he's gonna be a third liner, right? He doesn't do anything. He's big, he's strong, and it doesn't really do anything special to me, right? When I watch him, I don't think, man, I really hope my team has him in their top 6 3-4 years from now, right? I'm like, he's a good. He could be a guy who plays on our third line and be a solid third liner. I'd be happy with it. So I mean, if you're looking at him in like the top of the second, mid of the second, like yeah, great value because I think the player is good. I think he's just okay to good at everything, but he's not great at anything, and so he doesn't really excite me as a from an evaluation perspective.
It's been a tough year, really tough year. I was actually going to mention Stramel, so I'm glad that you did. So I am going to mention Kalen Lind. I think he's a guy. I had Matthew Ward, plays for the Swift Current Broncos, as one of my underrated prospects a couple years back. Just because, and I think they have similar games. Lind is pretty light. He's like 150 pounds, I think. He's 6 feet. I think when he was drafted to Red Deer, I think he was like 5'5". He was tiny, but he's got a lot of grit to his game. He's got a lot of skill. He can score. He was a point a game this year with Red Deer, who I don't think were particularly great, but I just think he's going to find a way to make it again. Just a hardworking forward, very similar to a guy like Ward, who I was surprised didn't get drafted at all. He's got some very similar qualities that a lot of teams it's becoming more of a premium now because you see a lot less players that have the combination of skills that he has. And I think he's a good value in like the second or third round. I think he'll be just fine in that regard.
All right, my third player is gonna be Otto Stenberg. Played in Sweden this year for Falunda. No, kind of the typical Swedish player you see. Good two-way game. He's a very dynamic player. Has a good shot. I think he's gonna be more of a complementary piece and not something you rely on every single night. Not some stud forward, but kind of like Victor Olofsson in a way where he has a dangerous shot. He can play in your top 6. And I think he could crack the first round if a team is really high on him. I don't really see it. I think he's more of a middle 6 guy at this point, maybe more of a high end third liner. But he's very shifty, a very good playmaker. I'm curious to see who takes a chance on him. Maybe a team like Buffalo or Minnesota in the second round. They love their Swedes. So
yeah. I think he'll go in the first round. I think if I didn't pick Cowan, I think he's probably the last guy to go in that first round. He had a really good U18s as well, and some teams kind of put a premium on that stuff. So we'll see. He's ranked pretty unanimously in the first round from what I can see. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just that he's a guy who's fallen a lot because he
right.
was the talk. I mean, at the start of the year, like in last year, that Stenberg could have been like a top 10 pick this year, and so he's definitely fallen from that kind of lofty projection. But I still think that Stenberg is a guy Toronto would consider. Like I consider him if I was Toronto. But that does. But Treliving's not at the table, so we don't have to worry about him taking some random guy who just had 80 points in the juniors. But I think there's a couple spots. I mean, Carolina could use him. If Nate Danielson isn't available, he could be a fit there for them too, because like you mentioned, they need a reliable middle six guy, right? So I see a couple of spots for him in the end, but not before 25. I don't think. I think 25 to 35 is probably his.
All right. That about does it. Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. This was definitely shorter than last year's. Um, yeah. It should be fun. We'll have a stream ready on Wednesday, and then in 6 days it's free agency, so that's gonna be fun. And yeah. Any final thoughts,
Draft is
gentlemen?
always a bunch of fun. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me either. Unfortunately, I'll be too stressed over a midterm to really be able to enjoy the draft. I might just have it in the background on stream while I furiously study optimization. Um, but looking forward to it. I'm also really interested to see if any of the picks that we've made today line up with real life. Probably not, knowing us.
We'll
But
go 100%
That'd be
watch.
cool.
it'd be cool if we, especially in after pick 10, right, from 11 to 32. If we could just get one that is nailed on correct, I'd be pretty excited.
Now let's aim higher. 5.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you know what, that's fair. That's fair because I think with Mishkov and Reinbacker and the Moore Smith Leonard situation, Benson's also a guy who could go anywhere. You know what, you're right. Anywhere from 5 down. If we nail a pick spot on, I'd be pretty excited. Unless
Yeah,
of
the
course
draft is so
Mishkov
much fun.
falls past 5, in which case
The draft is so much fun. It reminds me when I had Velarde going fourth and they took Makar. I had Makar 12th that year. I
I
was
had
like,
McCart. No, sorry. I had Velarde third to Dallas. I remember, and
yeah,
then he fell to 11 or 12.
yeah. I
So
felt to 11.
yeah.
hey man, look, this was a great draft, but
We'll see how
Anyways,
good of a scout I am.
anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.